CBSE Board, Class 11, History, Chapter 2, Part 36, Audio by Renee Matthew. The ethnic and language of the Mongols were differentiated all around the whole empire, and this is something which united the Mongol people, but the resources that is still available to the historians is very scarce, which meant that the society was divided into patrilineal lineages, which meant that the society was divided based on the male hierarchy. It was based on the property which was divided among the male members of the society. So the richer families started getting richer and the poorer remained poor. And they possessed more animals, livestock and pasture lands also. So because of this particular division, richer families grew into more number, but definitely, as we saw in the previous slide, cities were not increasing. They did not have any access to form cities. So because of that, they had many followers, and these followers were very influential in local politics, especially the rich families. Just like any other place in the world, they were followers of local politics. Now, how did they manage when they had natural calamities? Because this particular empire was nomadic in nature. From where did they get the resource? And all the places which were surrounding the empire was really in fear of the strength, of the growing strength of Genghis Khan. So usually they never had calamities, but when they had calamities, it was really severe, especially during cold winters when game, that is, the provision for food was always through the animals that they hunted. So the animals and the stored provisions ran out of stock. They had to actually prolong it further during the winter. Those were the hard days of the Mongols. And also during the drought, parched land, that is, the land became very dry, especially the grasslands, which was so luxurious and rich, they started growing dry. And that will definitely force the families to go beyond their field, to go beyond the field, leading to conflict, especially over pasture lands. And predatory raids happened, and they were very predatory in nature. They were used to raiding, they were used to plundering and looting, and that was only in search of their livestock. So families started foraging, that is, they started hunting for fodder. Forage means fodder for animals. So groups of families would occasionally ally. It is like all these families, when they had common interest and when they started plundering for a common interest, they would occasionally bind together. They would get together for offensive and defensive purposes. Both offensive and defensive purposes, especially around richer and more wealthy lineages. But that actually barred a few exceptions. These confederacies were usually small and short-lived. So this kind of treatment of the people around them was short-lived. It was not for a longer time. So we have to talk about the size of the Genghis Khan's confederation, especially of Mongol and Turkish tribes. It was perhaps matched in size. It was not that it was small. It was matched in size, and it was stitched together in the 5th century by Attila. We have to see what it is, what is Attila, and how they were bonded together under one confederation. So unlike this particular system which was followed in Attila, Genghis Khan's political system was durable, and it survived its founder. It had a lot of unity, though it was nomadic in nature. Though they were from different culture and social background, it had some unity. Why was it stable? It was stable enough to counter large armies, especially with superior equipment. This was a time when technological advancement was not at all there in any parts of the world, especially with Russia or Europe, be it whatever place in the world. So with superior equipment, they were able to counter large armies, especially that of China, Iran and Eastern Europe. And as they established control over these regions, that is, I'm talking about China, Iran and Eastern Europe, the Mongols administered complex agrarian economies. It was agriculture in nature. So it started getting very complex. And urban settlements is not exactly city, but they started becoming sedentary in nature. That is, they started settling down. It was no longer pastoral, or nomadic pastoralism was not at all followed. And this kind of settlement was quite away from their own social experience and habitat. Very far. There was a kind of transformation which took place when they transformed themselves from the nature of being a nomad to a feudal lord. Okay, so agrarian economies was growing, but still urban settlements were also there, and they were just transforming themselves into being sedentary, that is, settling themselves in one particular place. The social and political organization of the nomadic nature, especially of the agrarian economies, was really very different. And when it comes to Mongols, it was very, very different. The two societies, that is nomadic, agrarian, they were not the same. You may think that they were nomads and they were very familiar with agriculture and they were agrarian nature. It's not like that. The two societies were really different from each other. It was foreign to each other. That is a sentence which is given here. Really alien to each other. The scant resources of the steppe lands, it was not that it was filled with resources of the steppe lands, drove away Mongols and other Central Asian nomads. It started forcing these people, especially from Central Asia, to trade and barter with their sedentary neighbors in China. So most of the neighboring places were sedentary in nature. They also started transforming themselves, and this particular scarcity in resources forced them to trade and also barter. Barter is exchanging goods. So that was a system which was followed by Mongols that actually made them follow it. It was driving them to follow this particular nature.